If you're looking for pound the best home health and beauty fragrance products, you need to go to ashkickin.com.
Hi, I'm Bobby Dean, and you're watching Dante's
Boxing Nation.
Boxing Nation.
Listen, I know you got mandatories. The winner of this main event becomes your WBC mandatory for that belt that you have.
Yes, sir.
You have a WBA mandatory. Let's put all that aside. If Keith Thurman has his druthers and you say he can pick his next opponent, who you fighting?
You know, just being the kind of fighter I am, I always see two things that really matter. One is fighting legends. That would bring up names like Floyd Mayweather, who he's only talking to McGregor about fighting, so let's not talk about him too much. But Manny Pacquiao's still active. A lot of people think that he should leave the game, but I think if he wants to leave the game, he should go out with a bang, and he should let a young buck who really wants to be the best fighter in the world, he should go toe-to-toe. And outside of that, we still have more world champions in the welterweight division, one being Kell Brook overseas. Your boy Errol right here sitting next to me, he's going to try to bring that belt back to the United States, and then maybe we can have another unification bout right here. Who knows, maybe in New York, maybe in a bigger venue. But, I mean, when it comes to the welterweight division, there's a lot of great fights, and your boy Keith one-time Thurman is trying to make those great fights happen for you.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? Man, that was an interesting interview right there. That was a very, very interesting and telling interview, wasn't it? And one of the things that I thought was almost comical was Gervonta Tank Davis and Errol Spence's reaction when they first heard Brian Custer ask Keith Thurman, if it were up to you, who would you like to fight personally next? And you see the way they reacted. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and play that clip one more time.
He's saying he can pick his next opponent, who you fighting?
To see Gervonta and Errol Spence both turn their head in a synchronized way to see or get Keith Thurman's reaction, it just made for a great interview overall. I mean, Errol Spence and Keith Thurman sitting right next to each other for the very first time, and Thurman is asked the question, if it were up to you, who would you fight next? Now, before I get into exactly what Keith Thurman had to say, I want to play this clip of this interview I did with Errol Spence when I asked him the question, if you beat Kell Brook, do you think Keith Thurman will fight you? Let's go ahead and check this out. I know you're not looking past Kell Brook, but just assuming you win this fight, do you think Keith Thurman will take the fight?
There's nothing to think about. I mean, we're both the same manager, so you got to step up, man. Step up and step down. So, no, you're definitely going to have to take the fight. If not, you need to move around, vacate, move up, move down, move around, something, because, you know, I'm coming for the rest of the strap.
Now, I want to go back to what Keith Thurman said when he was asked the question, who would he choose to fight if it were up to him? You notice the first thing he said was, you know, when it comes to me, I'm the type of person, you know, I feel fighting legends is basically more important than anything else. That's pretty much what he said, fighting legends. He brought up Mayweather, he brought up Manny Pacquiao. Now, of course, those would be great names on your resume, no doubt about it, especially when it comes to Floyd Mayweather, right? But the only problem with him saying that is Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, they were not legends when he fought them. And I think we all remember, soon as Danny Garcia won the welterweight strap, Keith Thurman called him out. So now you have Kell Brook versus Errol Spence. And this time it's the other way around, in which now you have the possible winner of Kell Brook versus Errol Spence calling out Keith Thurman, as opposed to Keith Thurman calling out the new welterweight champ in his division. Now, despite Keith Thurman saying what he said in this interview, he did say at the end of the interview that, you know, you also have the winner of Errol Spence and Kell Brook And he said maybe that fight can even happen down the line. Despite him saying maybe, I agree with Errol Spence when he said eventually he's going to have to fight Errol Spence eventually. And I think he will. I think Keith Thurman is going to fight him. I think Keith Thurman, he's going to try to secure a couple of other wins before he gets in the ring with Errol Spence. I think because Keith Thurman is such a student of the game, a student of the sweet science game. He knows how good Errol Spence is. And I truly believe deep down, Keith Thurman, he's saying to himself, there is not going to be any fight tougher than an Errol Spence fight right now. That's what I truly believe. And and it's okay to say something like that. Matter of fact, I think it makes you look even better if you were to just come out and say, you know what, Errol Spence, I give his kid a lot of credit. I think right now he's the most well-rounded fighter, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then say, I want to really build that fight up before I take that fight. If you were to say something like that, it probably sounds a little bit better. But, he didn't say that. And, now we have to play the waiting game. We have to see when Keith Thurman will take that fight. Now, there's no guarantee Errol Spence will beat Kell Brook. But if Errol Spence does beat Kell Brook, or hell, in that case, even if Kell Brook beats Errol Spence, that will still make for a great fight. The winner of Brook versus Spence fighting Keith Thurman would make for a great fight. Okay? So hopefully it happens. Now, just recently, the other day, or today, I'm not sure, but Fight Hype, they interviewed Errol Spence, and Errol Spence said in response to this interview that Errol and Keith Thurman did on Showtime, with them sitting right next to each other, after Errol Spence seeing that, he said to Fight Hype, quote, he really don't want the fight. He don't want the fight. He's chasing everybody else. He's chasing Floyd. I guess he's going to fight Sean Porter again. I'm going to demand it after I win the belt. He's been talking about unifying and becoming the undisputed welterweight champion. After I win the belt, he'll have a chance to get one of the belts with no excuses to get the belt. He has to fight, end quote. You heard it from Errol Spence. He said he has to fight. He said Keith Thurman has said before that he wants to unify the belts, and now he has that opportunity to do so. So let's see. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens first, May 27th, when Errol Spence goes against Kell Brook. I told you guys on many occasions, I've always felt that Kell Brook would be Errol Spence's most difficult fight out of all of the champions right now at the welterweight division. We'll see if that comes to fruition. Or we'll see if Errol Spence, he goes in there and he blows out Kell Brook like he did Algieri, like he did Bundu. We will see. We will definitely see. And it'll also be very interesting to hear what Keith Thurman has to say after May 27th, after Errol Spence and Kell Brook face off. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.